Joining me on the show tonight is a man who, well, I'm exhausted just being in his company for 5 minutes. Dara O'Briain, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you? I'm sorry I've tired you out.
Did you notice, by the way, I didn't say Dara O'Briain?
I'm very impressed, thank you very much. It is actually something that people in this country, and I thank you as a guest in your country, always make an effort to get right. Whereas in Ireland, they will do whatever the hell they feel like with the name. I actually presume that I have translated it into Irish, or Gaelic as it's known here for some reason, as some sort of EU funding ruse, and will automatically translate it back into English again, when in fact it is, yeah, you're right, O'Brien, thank you very much.
How are you, by the way?
I'm good, I'm in good form.
I saw you last night, and you did kind of a rehearsal gig, if you like, in front of a few people, really. There weren't many people.
Yeah, well, you do, this is the way shows get written, really, to be honest. You try them out on stage, and you came along, but must be 40 people in the room, or 50 people maybe in the room, that sort of thing. It's not the most glamorous end of the comedy world, like but you remember them fondly at the end of the tour, when you're tired of the theatres and the adulation and the encores. You remember the really bad nights, the Tuesday nights in London in front of nobody. Yeah.
Is it harder doing 40 compared to 4,000 or 400?
It kind of is, but 40 is where you want to make your mistakes. Plus, as well as that, when you're writing stuff, the way you write comedy is often you write it on the hoof on stage. And so over the course of the tour, for example, the show will change a lot, because I'll spot little things I didn't spot when you sit down with a piece of paper, because you go into a panic mode, you go into a zone, as it were. It's all alpha waves in every direction, you're really focused, and suddenly your brain is flinging ideas left, right and centre out, and that's why you do previews. You could write the show out in a piece of paper, but it's nothing. It's when you get out there and you suddenly realise, oh my God, that actually doesn't work. That hilarious idea I had about mobile phones being the new cheese graters, that's not funny at all. And so maybe this is but in the moment of panic, when this isn't working, something will pop out which actually does work, hopefully. That's the theory.
What is wrong in your brain that you think that mobile phones are like cheese graters is funny in the first place?
I'm not going with that idea didn't work. I tried it didn't work, like whatever. I mean, you literally have sheets of things with, like, as I said, I think last night, I have reams of paper with, what if the UN was entirely peopled by dwarves? Would it be better? Would it be worse? And this kind of and silly ideas. Elephants dancing? ? And these things don't actually ever make it to a show.
I'm laughing.
Well, yeah, I know, because how stupid an idea that you would do an entire routine about this. My favourite example was, what about those things on doors that make them close automatically? Some of them are too fast and some of them are too slow. What's going on there? That is written down as my template of the worst idea you could ever possibly go with on stage. And you'd never do. See, when you're sitting writing this stuff, and this happens in all things, in television or in live, you think, oh, well, there's a funny idea, and then when you stand in front of a crowd, you suddenly go, oh, it's actually not that funny at all. I couldn't go through with this. So the new stuff is always a tough bit.
And by the way, don't take my laughing as a compliment. I'm very easily pleased. I have very low standards.
You're my kind of audience member. Frankly, if you're the kind of audience members who laughs on the inside, you're of no use to me in my career. But I don't need a kind of a contented, I am amused, kind of from people. I do actually need laughter.
Is that the loneliest place in the world, when you do your funniest gag of the night and there's nothing?
There is an arch sense of rejection. There is, and it goes beyond, especially if you're an actor and you do a line that's not and supposed to be funny, it doesn't get a laugh. You can at least blame the writer or blame the script, or go, well, clearly Shakespeare's idea of comedy have not transcended time. But when you're stand-up, it's just you out there. So the acceptance of you is incredibly warming on a personal level, and the rejection is deeply hurtful. Remember that next time you see a stand-up. It's not just the jokes you're rejecting, it is actually them, the person you're rejecting.
Is it worse than going up to a lady, being an ugly fat man like myself, and her going, clear off, you're just disgracefully
it's
disgusting?
Similar. You know what, it actually is roughly the same idea, because you basically in stand-up spend 2 hours flirting with the crowd, going, love me, didn't you love me there? I'll say something that'll make you love me now. And you want to, and luckily I do long shows, so frankly I wear them down. I am like a long marriage in which eventually the wife will go, fine, all right, we'll go to your choice of restaurant or whatever, or I will offer myself up in bed, whatever, however filthy you want to go. I got 2 hours in which to make them love me, so I can generally turn it around at some stage. But it is exactly that level of crossing a room and going to a stranger and going hello and hoping it'll work. But hopefully as a comedian you go with certain bullets in the gun, which is your show.
But you see, like my love life, I find at this point it's just easier to offer money and pay, and then you don't have to do all that. Couldn't you do that to your audience?
You treat them as whores? I'm not going to do that. Can I just go, here's some cash, go knock yourself out? No, I'm not going to do that. They're good. Besides the fact, they've paid for me, so I am the lap dancer in this situation, not them.
All right, we'll be back with Dara O'Briain, spelt Dara O'Briain, something like that.
In a nutshell.
We're back with top comedian Dara O'Briain, who you may not know yet, but let me tell you why I got to know him. You did something which massively impressed me, which was Have I Got News for You?
Ah, yes, yeah.
That's a hard gig. Now, that was one of your real first big gigs on TV in this country.
A lot of people would know me, even if they don't know the name. I am that Irish guy who did a few Have I Got News for You. Is roughly how people know me, and then maybe off a boat with Griff Rhys-Jones. It's a weird thing, a television career, especially given that, like, you know, independent of all that, I've been gigging like a fury anyway for years and working. I'm doing tours. Suddenly people go, "Oh, you're that guy who did that one thing once," and you go, "No, surely not just that." It is actually, it's not as hard as you think. You're very well supported, you're working with very talented people, and there's a lot of scope for messing around. So it's it's an imposing gig in the sense there's a bit of a history to it, but it's not the most difficult. It's actually, you can go and enjoy yourself in it.
Yeah, but that's being very humble, because yesterday I was talking to Alan Carr about the Friday Night Project.
Yes.
And that's the same thing where you go, oh, we'll get presenters in to present this comedy show. Comedy isn't that natural to people who aren't good at comedy.
Yeah, and the tough one with that one, that kind of, the Friday Night Project always seems to be like an abject exercise, and why don't we get people in who don't do this and show how difficult this is, right? By making them not do it well.
Why don't we get Michael Barrymore on and just show that he can't do it anymore?
Exactly. And then what would be with two young hot comics beside him whose audience it is, whose show it is secretly, but would flatter the people into thinking it's really your show this week. Like, God, it's just an evil trick, that show, in many ways. Alan's a funny man, isn't he?
He is.
Funny man. He's very good if you want to give up smoking. He really hates that now, the fact that he's got a smoking guru. But I suppose there is a touch of that. But if you've been doing stand-up for years and facing tough crowds, frankly, the studio in Have I Got News for You, when you know that if I go dry at any stage, oh well, luckily Paul Merton is sitting over there and he'll pick up the baton and run with it. So it actually was fun to do.
It's interesting because it's a bit like the David Letterman show and the Jay Leno show in America, where the crowd are kind of already there with you to laugh at anything, which is different to most TV shows, because certainly a lot of the crowds let the kind of comedians down in this country because they're not really behind them.
It can happen. I found it happens in Ireland a lot as well, by the way, that the crowd are unconvinced of you unless they've seen you do well somewhere else, unless they already know you, and they won't. It drives you up the wall. We bring on a new guy on. We do a show in Ireland called The Panel, right? And we bring on people every so often, like Mike Wilmot, who's a bit of a comedy hero, but not well known. And the audience going, well, I'm not sure, and holding back, and you're going, no, just go, would you please? Just take a leap of faith. And occasionally happens with crowds that they can go, that they are more comfortable with someone they already know. Comedy is a confidence trick, basically. So if you can cut to the bit where you already know I'm funny, then the audience go, oh, you're right, I do actually. I didn't realize it a second ago, but now I do. Now that you say it, yes. And then they laugh with you. It's just weird. It is just Emperor's New Clothes a lot of the time. If you can basically create enough shiny images that you can distract them into just kind of going, oh God, yeah, you're funny, without actually doing anything funny, and then you start. It's great. But you're right. It is tough sometimes, because you see people being tough on a guy that you've seen be funny a million times just because you also go, well, I don't know you, and you go, oh come on, you don't have to know him, do you? It's just funny, like. So yeah, it's a weird thing. Audiences are strange things at the best of times.
Are you frustrated that you're now in your mid-70s and you've been doing it for so long? And the last couple of years you've just had some TV in Britain and people go, oh, have you heard of this new comedian Dara O'Briain?
It is strange. Let's correct the mid-70s things right from the off, shall we?
Did I get that wrong?
You're off by 37 years, right? It's grand. I've just passed 34.
Forgive me, it was your name that distracted me.
It was more the large, bald appearance that does it. People I've always looked older than I am. But but comedy, delightfully, is one of these things that takes years to build up a career. There ain't no Pop Idol version of comedy, because you can't. You have to learn how to do it. Like, so everyone who does comedy, you pick anyone who's an overnight success in massive quotation marks, like Jimmy Carr, for example. 5 years of gigging before he became an overnight success. You have to learn how to do it, which means that you can't just fly by night in and be pretty and do it that way. So luckily, it lets in the uglier types of people like myself. It's great, but it is a career that genuinely you have to work at. So I'm cool with it. Let it take as long as possible. Morecambe and Wise, 20 years of gigging before they went on television. That's it's one of the joys of it.
How do I say this, Dara, without offending you? Because I'd hate you to walk out at this point, but it does seem to me, and I'm the biggest love of comedians, I have them all on this programme, from Bernard Manning to you to Alan Carr to whoever.
Yeah.
And you're all a bit peculiar looking, aren't you, really?
Okay, obviously, I am somewhere on the statistical graph closer to normal looking.
Yeah, I would go with that. Yeah.
What do you mean by peculiar? peculiar looking, in unconventionally handsome, is what you're saying, isn't it?
Well, you never see like a Brad Pitt stood on stage doing stand-up. Somehow that isn't as funny, is it?
It's not funny. Do you know, you've actually put your finger on something there. People don't laugh at the really good looking guy. They never have. People laugh at the slightly weird looking, unthreatening guy. And even if you're kind of being brash and confident and stuff like that, you have to back it up by being bad at things within the show. Like, so when I'm talking and I say, hey, I recently went on holidays where I swam with a dolphin, guaranteed I'm going to tell you how badly it went and how I almost drowned and the dolphin ate me. Like, you people in comedy don't hear how great your life is and how good looking you are. Like, so yeah, it actually is. It's quite funny because occasionally the press will pick on one of the younger comics who is quite cute and say, hey, this guy's great. But you know, deep down, the audience don't want to see that. They don't want to see some 24-year-old good looking kid being funny. So I think a few scars help. I don't literally mean scars, obviously, but you look like you've had a few nights out. You look
minor
like you
injuries.
don't really care. You don't want to look like you're in the gym a lot, aren't you? There's some funny stuff about being in the gym. Yeah.
And I'm so pleased you're working so hard not to kind of make yourself gorgeous, because that's so important.
Do you know, for all you know, I am working really hard, and this is as good as it gets. Like, I could be in 5 days a week just bench pressing and stuff, just so not to be hideously unattractive, and I get grief like this.
When I'm talking Irish, slightly overweight, very highly regarded, it's either him or Terry Wogan, isn't it?
One of the two, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is only a matter of time before I'm going, here come the Lithuanians. They've been doing this for a while now. It's called Boom Shaka 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 Boom. It's all ahead of me. Some stage Terry has got to stop and I can step into his shoes. So I'm looking forward to that.
I saw you live last night, and there's two things I'll say about you. A, you're very funny, so congratulations on that. B, you've got great enthusiasm. But what comes with that enthusiasm is the pace in which you talk, which it is almost draining. I mean, it's something to watch, and I've never seen anybody with such passion on stage, but it goes so quickly. Is it that quick in your head, or do you think you're stuttering and going slowly?
There are times when it feels like semaphore, when I have to really put the brakes on so that people know what the hell I'm talking about. I just throw ideas out, and somebody said, God, if you just slow down, you could have twice as much stuff. And you're going, no. If I slow down, you would spot how poor the writing is. And frankly, all I'm doing is constantly barraging myself. So you're in a way, I say, the contrast to draw with, say, Jimmy, for example, Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr will hone a beautiful one-liner in the hope that one-liner will punch you in the face, and then you will knock you flat out, like, and then you'll get a big laugh. Whereas I will just push you, and then push you again and again and again and again and again and again, and while you're just reeling, I'll push you a few more times, and then you'll fall over. Right? That's the way I work. Right?
Is it fall over or give in?
Essentially, yeah. The way there's a release and some air is exhaled. Yeah, so I just fling stuff out. So it is fast. But the only thing is, it's not as if, I mean, people have, for years, 10, 11 years, how long I've been doing this, have said, slow down because, we're missing something. You go, no. The whole point is you are missing it, and it's tripping you up constantly, and you're going, what? And then there's another thing flinging past you, and I give you a bit of a break. But then I go at you again, and there's all hands and motion. So it is a performance thing. And it means that even a night like last night, which was a preview, which was there were sections of that which I was doing for the very first time, just sheets of paper with an idea down that I am trying to throw out. I'm just putting myself in the position where the brain is panicking and firing ideas in every direction, and hopefully some of them are good. So it is to get some idea of manic creation on stage and things flying, especially when you're talking to the audience. Or what do you do? Oh, you're a plumber. Bing, 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 flinging stuff at them all the time. So yeah, it's meant to be that way.
Audiences think that's very clever, don't they? I was watching that last night, and I suppose it's the same when you get a caller on air and you come back with a smart-ass comment. You might have had it there for 10 years waiting to bring it out.
Sometimes you do, yeah.
But it always impresses, and there aren't many guys that are willing to do it, to kind of put themselves in there and just go with whatever happens and hope, for the love of God, that something funny is going to come out the other end.
It is among the scariest parts, because you can just write the show and do the show, but I think people do appreciate the fact that you're playing with the fact that it's live and there's something different every night. And every time I do it, I will go to 4 or 5 or 6 of different people, just in order to that show gets populated with jokes that simply couldn't happen another night, because we won't have the plumber, the Spanish skateboarder like we had last night, and the dour Hastings barman who was got all weird and stroppy at the end, like so you're trying to fill it with stuff that basically makes that all, or the history student who didn't know that Yugoslavia no longer existed. He was brilliant. I'm looking for a list of countries in the world, and this guy goes, Yugoslavia? And we went, that's gone 10 years. And he said, oh, what do you do? I study history. And you go, this kind of stuff, you look looking for those kind of beautiful moments.
But what I love as well is two things. One, you're clever enough to know that he made a fool of himself and can point that out, because I'm sure half the audience didn't know either. That's the reality of it. And they're all going, oh, isn't he stupid? But of course they were thinking, oh, that's a good suggestion.
I was just about to say Yugoslav. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't now.
I spoke to Ken Dodd once and he said, you only become a great comic when you trust your mind. You'll just open it up and just go with it. Is that presumably your...
There is a point where you want to create a universe which is entirely... built by you and populated by you, and so that, in other words, when anything happens, you basically filter it through your head, and it comes out into your world in a cartoon form, and it observes your world's rules, like your man, and sending your man home with homework at the end of the night, like, you know, it's kind of stuff. So yeah, you do want people to go, I have stepped into this guy's front room, and he is just creating this whole world, and he's populating for us here and now. Yeah, you do want to do that. That's a nice way of putting it, Ken Dodd put it. Yeah, but then Ken Dodd does 5 hours on stage, so frankly, he can talk,
and you're getting there. I mean,
that was only 2 hours last night. But man, and I wasn't point to why I went, let's have an interval. Let's do another 2.5 hours afterwards. No.
Very finally, the jokes that come that you've never heard before out of your head. I mean, how frustrating is it when you don't remember them for the next show, or do you remember everything?
Kills you. No. There are times you wake up as well in the morning and go, God, 3 o'clock, I came up with something last night. Oh my God, I've forgotten it. And a friend of mine is a comic, and he woke up in the middle of the night with some brilliant joke in his head, and he said, I'm not letting this go. So he scrabbled around at the desk beside him, or the bedside table, and there's a piece of paper and a pen there, and he wrote down the joke, and then went back to sleep content, and then woke up the next day and was yawning and stretching, and went, oh God, that joke, and he couldn't remember what the joke was. So he said, haha, and he turned to the piece of paper, and he got up, and it just said a hammer on the piece of paper, and that's the only thing he wrote down. And to this day, he's no idea what the joke was. It could have been the greatest joke in the world, but it's gone.
So you have to write everything down that you think of?
Everything. Scribble it down somewhere.
Very finally, I just want to congratulate you on Mock the Week, which I watched and taped on my Sky Plus, because it, again, is one of those rare shows where you get so many talented people in one room that can impress you and be funny. There aren't many shows for that now, are there?
Well, this is one of those shows where you couldn't have a punter on it. You couldn't have like a politician being a guest on it. You have to be a professional comic or an actor, and then we make you do stuff with it. Like, so it can be quite demanding as a show to do, like, whatever. But thank you very much. Like, we're enjoying doing it.
Do you know why I think you're so brilliant at that?
Okay.
Because you're not showing off. You really hold back, because as a comedian, surely your instinct is to be funnier than him who said this or him who said that, and your job as the host is to allow them to be funny, and you just keep it together.
There is a touch that what you want to do is, however, do enough showing off so you get spotted, and but yet look as if you're controlling yourself. I tell you, Dara could do much more, but he holds it back. You don't know that I'm chucking everything out, and that's the only stuff that gets into the edit. The rest of it is just rubbish. Like. But thanks for taking it as a good thing.
Do you know what I mean, though? I mean, it would be very easy for you to start interrupting here, there, and everywhere, and the comments that you do give are very funny, and they leave them in, which is nice for us to see. But it's great that as a comedian, because most of those comedy shows aren't really hosted by comedians, i.e. Angus Deaton, who did Have I Got News For You. He isn't a stand-up.
No, he's not. He was never a stand-up per se. And it is a certain kind of type of skill, but the key is to roll it along so it looks as conversational as possible, while at the same time chucking in a few ideas. And I'm all in favour of taking an idea that a guy says on one table, embellishing it, and hoping that someone on the other side sticks another thing on top of it. I mean, tonight, if you get a chance to watch out for the Yak. The Yak will make an appearance during the Winter Olympics routines, or not routines, or the chat. The Yak is probably the high point of tonight's show. But it is those bits we weren't expecting, and then we all come in with something. So yeah, you're right. It is, and my job though is to roll it along.
Is everybody happy on that show, or are there some people competing? Because there's that uncomfortable moment where you do 3 either side, and they have to come to the microphone, and they'll all step down together. I mean, is there a little bit of edge there?
There is, and there are times when 2 of them go at the same time, and one has to step back, and then you're going, God, I hope mine is better than his now, because we're both going at the same time. Like, I haven't lost the audience that one. But a bit of competition doesn't hurt in comedy, I find. Not in a kind of a Simon Cowell, we will judge you way, but you know, we should be trying to outdo each other.
Dara O'Briain, congratulations on Mock the Week. Coming back for another series?
We don't know yet. We're still in the middle of this one, so let's get this. We think so, but we don't know.
I hope so, because it's a great show and very funny. Secondly, you're going on tour from March, and you're going everywhere. So just look for your local theatre, and you'll be there, and you're concluding with the big show at Drury Lane Theatre Royal. 2 nights
in the Drury Lane on the 30th of April and the 7th of May. We're doing, and one of them will stick on a DVD.
I mean, of course, the producers is, of course, in that theatre. I mean, have you thought of maybe doing a few songs about gays and maybe Hitler or something? You know?
They've covered that ground better than I could possibly dream of doing it.
Dara O'Briain, thanks for coming on The Late Show.
The Alex Belfield In Conversation podcast with daisymedia.co.uk.